What I'd like to do in this video is to do a quick overview of the gram stain. So what I have here in my staining tray and on top of my rack is a smear of bacteria. So it's ready to go to be gram stained. The first thing we want to make sure of is that we have all of our equipment that we're going to need, which is primarily for this is we need our gram staining kit. So this is a gram staining kit here. What I would do is I would make sure that all my reagents are in order. So one of the first reagents that we're going to use is the crystal violet. And then the second reagent that we have here is the iodine mordant. And then we have our decolorizer. And then last is the saffron and counterstain. All right, so just make sure that those are in order. Crystal violet, iodine mordant, decolorizer, and saffron. All right, so the basic steps are as what's written here. So we're going to expose our bacteria or smear to crystal violet for a minute, and then we're going to rinse, and then we're going to expose the smear to the iodine mordant for a minute, and then rinse. We want to make sure that we have our water bottle to rinse in between each step. And then we decolorize for about 5 to 10 seconds, and then rinse. And then the last step in the gram stain is to cover our smear with the saffron and counterstain for 1 minute. And then we rinse, and then after we rinse, we're gonna blot dry using bibulous paper before we look under the microscope, okay? So again, I'm gonna kind of mimic my way through this. We're not actually gonna wait a minute and with all these steps here, because it can take quite a long time, but those are the basic steps here. So we have our smear. You can see that it's been completely dried on the staining rack here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover the smear with our crystal violet. Okay, so we want this completely flat on the rack here. So we're going to just cover our smear here with crystal violet. Leave that on there for a minute. Okay, and then after a minute, so we want to wait 1 full minute, we grab the slide with a clothespin, drain off the excess crystal violet into the tray, and then rinse. Now, when you rinse, avoid aiming the stream of water directly at the bacteria, because there is a possibility that the bacteria could wash up. So kind of aim the stream of water at the top and let the water just flow over the smear. Okay, like that. All right, and then after you rinse, set the slide completely flat back on the rack, remove the clothespin, okay? Do not let the clothespin stay on the slide, because what will happen is that when you add the other reagents, the reagent will slide off to one side or the other. So just take this clothespin off like that. All right, so we did the crystal violet part. So the second part is to now expose the bacteria in the smear to the iodine mordant. So this is the iodine mordant. All right, so we're going to cover this with the iodine mordant for 1 minute. Okay, and then after a minute, again, use your clothespin to grab the slide, drain off the iodine mordant into the tray, and then again rinse. All right, and after you've completely rinsed, again, lay the slide back down on the tray. Okay, now up until this point, whether your bacteria is a gram positive or a gram negative, it really doesn't matter. All bacteria will be purple. They're still purple at this stage, so nothing's really changed. So the real differentiation step is here in the decolorization step. Okay, this is the decoloration step is going to allow us to tell the difference between a gram positive and gram negative. Okay, so to decolorize, we are not going to leave the slide flat on the tray like this. All right, so again, what you're going to want to do is grab your slide with the clothespin and then hold the slide over your tray at a 45-degree angle. All right, now we've got our decolorizer. And what you're going to want to do is let the decolorizer flow over the slide into the tray for about 5 to 10 seconds. Okay, so no more than 5 to 10 seconds. And then after you decolorize, rinse with the water again. All right, and now we can put the slide back down. All right, let's kind of talk about what's going on here. So if your bacteria is a gram-positive, and you've done all these other steps correctly, if your bacteria is a gram-positive, even after the decolorization step, the bacteria should be purple. Okay, they'll still be purple. But if your bacteria is a gram-negative, because gram-negatives, they have an outer membrane made of lipopolysaccharide, the decolorizer will just kind of totally dissolve that away. And while gram-negatives do have a very thin peptidoglycan there are holes in it. So the decolorizer will just kind of wash away any of the crystal bile that was in the bacteria prior to this. So a gram-negative, after the decolorization step, should appear clear. They have no color to them if you were to look under the microscope. All right, now, we're not done. We've got one more step to go through, and that is the saffron and counterstain. So now we're going to add the saffron and counterstain. That is this. And we're going to cover our smear with the saffron and counterstain. Leave that on there for a minute. And as we did before, after a minute, grab your slide with the clothespin, drain off the extra saffronin, rinse. Okay. All right, and then after you rinse here, the way that we dry the slide off is we blot dry using bibulous paper. Okay, so all you really need to do is to take your slide and open up the bibulous paper tablet like that, and just kind of lay the slide in here and just blot dry. All right, just a couple of times. The slide does not have to be completely bone dry, but we blot dry. You never wipe. Okay, if you wipe the slide, you're going to wipe your bacteria off. All right, and now the slide is ready to look at under the microscope. So if your bacteria is a gram-positive, it'll appear purple after going through all the steps of the gram stain. But if your bacteria is a gram-negative, it'll appear pink. Okay, the reason it'll appear pink is because after the decolorization step, a gram-negative becomes decolorized. It has no color. But when we add the saffron and counterstain, the gram-negative bacteria will now absorb the pink saffron and will appear more pink. Okay. Now, just remember that before you put your slides under the microscope, we do need to add a cover slip, on top of the smear. Okay, that's going to allow us to see the bacteria under the microscope at their full color and at their full shape. So you just add a cover slip on top of your slide, and you are ready to observe this under the microscope.